So, recently I made a video about the casting of Snape in the new Harry Potter TV show. The video is currently the best performing video on my channel, and honestly I'm really proud of the way it turned out. There are a lot of good faith discussions between me and others in the comment section, despite some racist people angry at me for defending a black man being in a prominent role. The discussion I want to focus on for today's video comes from this comment made by Theory Virus. Me and him had a little back and forth in the comment section, and in the midst of it, he made this argument that I agreed to disagree on in order to move the conversation forward. But I think this point is worth addressing, as it reinforces a really dangerous idea about casting ethnic minorities in prominent roles. So consider this a sequel to my previous video about Snape. But before we can engage with this topic, we need to first answer the question: what is DEI? DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. DEI is a hiring practice that involves seeking out various talent pools to ensure that underrepresented groups from every demographic have an equal chance to succeed in the workplace. These demographics can include race, gender, religion, disabilities, sexual orientation, or class. A prominent example of a DEI hiring practice is the Rudy Rule implemented by the NFL that requires league teams to interview ethnic minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operations in order to guarantee minority coaches, particularly African Americans, will be considered for coaching positions at the highest levels. As you may have seen many times on the internet, grifters and their fans try to use this term to mean women, or anyone who is a part of a minority ethnic background, being casted in anything is DEI. This is an incorrect use of the term that results from fans of these people not knowing anything else but to repeat these buzzwords their favorite YouTuber exclaims nonstop. A prominent example going around on the internet is that Silver Surfer being a woman in the new Fantastic Four movie is DEI because the majority of the public thinks of Silver Surfer as a man. It's clear that these people have never picked up a Fantastic Four comic before because Shah LaBelle has been the female Silver Surfer since the 80s and was literally in the first Silver Surfer comic book and officially adopted the mantle in the 2000s in a different universe. It's obvious where Marvel is going with this, as the Fantastic Four movie is in a different timeline than the rest of the MCU, and Galactus will most likely destroy their planet and the crew will end up in the Sacred Timeline, where the Silver Surfer will most likely be Norm Red. It's obvious to anyone with a shred of integrity that nothing about making the Silver Surfer a woman in this universe has anything to do with DEI. And if you want an original film example, the creator was demonstrably criticized for his interracial relationship and having a black man be at the forefront of the story, with many labeling the casting decisions as DEI and wokeness. Except John David Washington was literally the first man to be considered to play the lead role, and considering the film is set in present-day Thailand, it makes sense for the love interest to be an Asian one. Yet another example of people whining about DEI and wokeness, even when the movie features original characters. Now you can see, these people's issues are not with original black characters, it's with women or people of a minority ethnic background being casted in these projects at all. Now that we have established the definition of DEI and explained how it's misused, let's come back to Fearing Virus's comment here. So, firstly, this statement is a straw man. I never said that no one has been casted on the basis of them just wanting to spread diversity in a project. I'm simply arguing against this idea for Papa being casted as Snape. Grifters and their parrots try to argue this for literally anything that doesn't have a straight white man in prominent roles, and scoff every single time a woman or a black person isn't just a side character. But I can kind of understand where you're coming from here. I agree, this is a reaction to more people, especially African Americans and women, being put in prominent roles, but I think it's 100% dishonest to frame these people whining about wokeness and DEI as people with legitimate concern about these media properties. You see, these people don't care about mainstream media if it's not contributing to the culture war. I mean, look at these ridiculous comments on my videos. Do you think these people actually care about Harry Potter? Do you think Eric July is a legitimate comic book fan? The same guy who couldn't even explain what Amazing Fantasy 15 was?
I'll tell you what, if you
Here, I'll give you an example. Why, you've read Amazing Fantasy number 15, right?
Go back to ISOM. What about it are you asking? What specific
wait. You've read Amazing Fantasy number 15, right?
What specific action are you asking pertaining to ISOM?
No. I'm going to get stuck on this one. You've read Amazing Fantasy number 15, right?
Let's talk about ISOM. You just asked me a question. Let's quit moving the goalposts. What specifically about the ISOM book is pertaining to like an action that you're asking about his motivations?
Dude, have you read Amazing Fantasy number 15?
All right, this isn't a gotcha. Can you please answer the question pertaining to ISOM?
It kind of fucking is. You're talking about being a comic book fan.
Can you please answer the question?
Holy shit, do you know what Amazing Fantasy 15 is?
There are plenty of people that don't
Do you know what Amazing Fantasy 15 is?
There are plenty of people that don't know who Spider-Man is, dipshit.
To put it simply, these people don't care about media properties outside of pushing their political agenda. These people see women and minority groups being in prominent roles as an attack on straight white men, and view these people being casted in projects as nothing more than pawns in a political chess game. Here, I'll let them say it themselves.
Now you see, once again here, because he is ideologically possessed and drowning in envy, he cannot be honest about the current state of Hollywood. Or frankly, life for that matter. Hollywood has aided in the pushing of an agenda for quite some time now, and it is drowning everyone that is not a heterosexual European male in political paint and using them as pawns. And those pawns end up in projects that get labeled as garbage, hence why the pawns become indicative of poor quality.
I mean, look at the situation with Deborah Wilson. These people cry about DEI and the idea that women and minority groups are being used solely because of their gender and race. But you have a woman who has shown time and time again that she is the best person for the job, and people complain about seeing her in too many projects because she's unappealing to look at.
I said, nigga, get the fuck out of here. The gripe is that everyone is sick of seeing her ass. Nobody gave a fuck about her acting. That shit ain't good enough to compensate for the fact that she's not appealing to look at. And that's a fact. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? That's a fact.
Look at the amount of work Deborah Wilson has behind her belt. Look at the amount of awards she has won as an actor. And you don't think it's ridiculous that people who see casting her in roles are only doing it because she's a black woman? Do you think that their reaction is justified? Do you think that the casting directors are inviting these ridiculous characterizations? This is precisely why I made the point about Samuel L. Jackson in the video, to which complete idiots miss the entire point of because they don't understand analogies, but that's a topic for another video. So, again, I ask any reasonable person out there, do you think Samuel L. Jackson was casted as Mace Windu because he is a black man and they wanted to promote diversity in Star Wars, or because he's an incredibly talented actor? Let's bring the discussion back to the decision to cast Papa as Snape. Look at the amount of work he has behind him. Look at his accolades. Look at what actual critics have to say about him. With all the information I have given you, do you think it's reasonable to view this situation as Papa being casted solely on the basis of him being black, or because he is a great actor who the casting directors think could properly accomplish the role? As an African-American man myself, and as somebody who considers themselves an antiquarian, I can recall a time where film and television was nothing but just straight white men in lead roles. Women are often reduced to a damsel in distress, black people were portrayed as thugs and gang members, Asian men were portrayed as cynical and backstabbing, and Asian women were sexualized to oblivion, with many people being portrayed as prostitutes. Back then, people were telling us, if you want black people in prominent roles, make your own movie or TV show. Now that these people have done exactly that, people call it wokeness and DEI, and they love to maintain plausible deniability. You often see people claiming that they enjoyed Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, and that people love Lando Calrissian in Star Wars, but when these same types of characters are created today, original or adapted from something else, people spam Hollywoke and tokenism under everything. Trust me when I say that these people are not to be taken seriously. They do nothing but make actual fans of film and television look bad, and are doing nothing more than hurting the current film industry by whining about great actors being casted in roles for movies. These people think that Hollywood is out to get them, and straight white men can only get casted as the antagonists of projects, which is obviously ridiculous considering the insane amount of women and minority ethnic groups that play villains in current films. And I also think this point up here is worth addressing. This argument misses one of the most important points I made in the video. Snape's skin color is not indicative of his character. If we're talking about somebody like Red Skull, he has to be a white European considering he's a Nazi in World War II, and Wonder Woman doesn't make sense if a man is playing her. The concept of changing a muscular person to skinny or a tall person to short only matters if that attribute is an important characteristic of their character. If we're talking about somebody like Ronald Weasley, who was originally described as tall in the book, having Rupert Grint play him didn't hurt the character, as his height wasn't an important attribute to his character, and Grint played him so well that we were able to overlook that. However, if we're talking about somebody like Frodo, having a tall guy play him hurts the character, as the hobbits being short is an important part of the character, as their size highlights their vulnerability and emphasizes their courage, showing that even seemingly insignificant people can play a crucial role. However, you could change Frodo's skin color and nothing about him would change. My argument is 100% consistent across all adaptations, and this is the same logic I apply to Papa being casted as Snape. Nothing about Snape changes as a result of him being black. Arguing that casting directors are applying stereotypes to him retroactively is the same thing as saying the filmmakers of Godzilla vs. King Kong applied stereotypes to Kong by having an 8 being changed. No matter how much you try to argue that they're different, both you and these racist scripters are applying a racial stereotype into a situation where there isn't any. This is a projection, not an invitation. And being as good faith as I can possibly be, this last part is not rooted in reality at all. The idea that Hollywood has been out and proud to cast people solely on the basis of their race or gender is a demonstrably false narrative echoed by the right-wing propagandists. Look at the amount of talent we have in recent media properties. Michael B. Jordan, Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, John David Washington, Daniel Brooks, nominated for an Oscar and has 12 won awards, Deborah Wilson, nominated for BAFTA with 3 won awards, Papa Ezadu, nominated for an Emmy and has 4 won awards, Anthony Mackie, 9 won awards, Brie Larson, won an Oscar in addition to 68 total won awards, Pedro Pascal, nominated for 3 Emmys and 22 won awards, Julia Garner, 3 Emmy Awards and 9 total won awards, Lydia Wright, nominated for an Emmy and has 11 won awards, Margot Robbie, nominated for 3 Oscar and 36 won awards, Jodie Turner-Smith, a single award and 9 total nominations, Cynthia Erivo, nominated for 3 Oscars and 23 won awards, Rachel Zelger, 5 won awards and 21 total nominations, Anya Taylor-Joy, nominated for an Emmy with 18 won awards, Michelle Yeoh, 81 nominations, an Oscar, and 80 total awards. Yet somehow, it's reasonable to assume these people are just being casted solely on the basis of their race or gender, despite all the works and amazing performances they have under their names, and Hollywood is proud to cast people solely on the basis of spreading diversity. See, now I'm speaking to grifters and their insane parrots. I don't want to hear any excuses such as, well, they were only given awards and nominations because of their race or gender, or any, well, awards aren't a good metric for how good an actor is. The fact of the matter is, these people are not just some random man or woman who has nothing behind their belt and are being casted solely on the basis of their race or gender. These are people who have clear accolades that prove that they deserve these roles. I mean, that was you guys' main issue with DEI in the first place, right? The idea that ethnic minority or female workers are replacing other people who are better for the job. It should be a good thing that these people being casted in today's biggest projects have such amazing accolades. Do you disagree? It's not like you guys just don't want women or black people in prominent roles, right? Oh, wait.